Glass Onion, the second installment of the murder mystery Knives Out series, was released in 2022. The mystery takes place on a tech billionaire's private island, with his selfish, lavish friends all staying at his giant glass mansion. The plot twist is that, spoilers, the tech mogul, despite his wealth, is actually an evil idiot. But if you look into who made Glass Onion, you'll see that the director and 3 of the main actors are all centimillionaires. Edward Norton, who plays the tech billionaire antagonist, has hundreds of millions of dollars from his own tech investments. Netflix, which owns the franchise, is currently pursuing the acquisition of Warner Bros., raising concerns of a monopoly. So why would these people make a movie that ridicules themselves? Why are there more and more of these on-the-nose class commentary movies coming out every year? And why do these movies' messages feel so futile? After FDR introduced the Revenue Act of 1935, yellow journalism publisher William Randolph Hearst went on TV to complain. Hearst was a billionaire in today's dollars, but his business had amassed millions in debt due to the Great Depression and his own horrible financial management.
This whole system of income taxation has degenerated into a racket. The sooner this impudent, intrusive, despotic, discriminatory, and perhaps revolutionary system of taxation is repealed, the better it will be for the honesty, the industry, the wealth, and the welfare.
In 1941, 25-year-old Orson Welles directed, starred in, produced, and co-wrote the Hollywood film Citizen Kane. The title character is clearly based on Hearst, following the life of a wealthy newspaper giant.
I did lose $1 million last year. I expect to lose $1 million this year. I expect to lose $1 million next year. You know, Mr. Thatcher, at the rate of $1 million a year, I'll have to close this place in 60 years.
Citizen Kane is a cautionary tale of money and power, beginning with Kane dying alone in his mansion and then narrating his rise to power and his ultimate loneliness. Director Orson Welles said he, quote, must admit that it was intended consciously as a sort of social document, as an attack on the acquisitive society, and indeed on acquisition in general. Kane begins as a vibrant young man and ends as a husk of his previous self in a ridiculous palace with its own zip code. He is the poster child for Marx's idea of alienation. In the essay Human Requirements and Division of Labor, Marx wrote that, quote, the less you think, love, theorize, sing, paint, fence, etc., the more you save. The greater becomes your treasure which neither moths nor rust will devour, your capital. The less you are, the less you express your own life, the more you have, i.e. the greater is your alienated life. The greater is the store of your estranged being. In other words,
If I hadn't been very rich, I might have been a really great man.
after Hearst learned about Citizen Kane after a preview screening, he set to shut it down before its release. He and his Hollywood executive allies attempted to buy Citizen Kane to burn the film. They threatened theaters to refuse to play it. There were press smears, FBI investigations, and blackmail. Due to Hearst's power and influence, the smear campaign was successful. Citizen Kane was nominated for 9 Oscars in 1942, but the audience booed Orson Welles' name whenever it was mentioned. It lost all but 1 award, and Hollywood then retired the film. It received little attention until its 1956 re-release, a few years after Hearst's death, and now it's widely considered to be one of the greatest movies ever made. Orson Welles continued to make movies till his death in the 80s, but he never directed anything that made a profit in his lifetime, and he never hid his disgust with Hollywood. Hearst's suppression of Welles alienated Welles from his art. In the essay Alienated Labor, Marx writes that, in his work, therefore, he does not affirm himself but denies himself, does not feel content but unhappy, does not develop freely his physical and mental energy, but mortifies his body and ruins his mind. The worker therefore only feels himself outside his work, and in his work feels outside himself. Near the end of Welles's life, his reflections on his career show this same alienation.
Can't imagine not having a regret about almost everything.
What are some of your big regrets?
That I fell in love with movies. You know, you could fall in love with a girl and have her ruin your life. And I fell in love with movies, and I have done less in my life than I would have if I hadn't.
What would you have done had you not fallen in love with movies?
I don't know, but something that didn't take so much time and cost so much in money and energy and everything else. I can't change this condition of love, but I think I would be better off without it.
What's wrong with this place is that it's another marketplace. And the marketplace is always the enemy of the artist.
The bourgeoisie in Hollywood ruined Welles. In a way, he reflects Citizen Kane's character as well, beginning as a passionate young artist and ending as a regretful, drained man. Despite his critical approval and widespread influence, he regrets his career. I don't believe that he could have made Citizen Kane after his alienation. The marketplace of Hollywood was destructive on him, and its impact shows that some of the most creative art can only be made before its exposure to capitalist injustice.
With wealth and fame, he's still the same. I'll bet you five you're not alive if you don't know his name.
Hollywood is a shifty, tax-evading industry. The Actors Union's 2023 strike and Hollywood's infamous accounting techniques designed to show no profit reveal only a fraction of the industry's exploitation and inequality. In 2021, only 25% of screen workers came from working-class backgrounds, 13 percentage points lower than the overall workforce average. The film industry is not accessible to the working class, resulting in biases in the stories it chooses to tell. At the top of the industry, the directors are billionaires, often owning large production companies as well. Last summer, Virginian factory worker and farmer Andrew Tate wrote in the rural news publication The Daily Yonder a piece titled Life in the Shadow of the American Dream. He described the challenges of insurance, his inability to marry his partner due to Medicaid, and how he has to grow food for his family on top of his factory job to stay alive. He writes, "If you are in power, hear me. We are not okay. We are drowning quietly." But major Hollywood studios are not interested in telling stories like Andrew's. It's not that movies on rural poverty don't exist, but they are few and far between. Hollywood likes to make movies about what you should aspire to, and they love capitalist rags-to-riches stories. But decades of demographic data show that the American dream is a myth. Hollywood movies contribute to the false consciousness that class mobility is achievable for all, if you work hard enough. But at the same time, it is an inaccessible, wealth-hoarding industry that does nothing to address the reality that the economic class a person is born into is the primary determinant of how they will fare economically as an adult. Hollywood treats wealth not only as a goal but also as a virtue. Pygmalion movies like Pretty Woman or The Princess Diaries associate poverty with disgust, social incompetence, and unattractiveness. But after the protagonist makeovers by their wealthier mentors, they suddenly become articulate, attractive, and virtuous. 2010's The Social Network, which explores the founding of Facebook and the character of Mark Zuckerberg, is a more modern representation of the American dream. In the writer's room, they describe adding a plot of romantic rejection to make the audience feel sympathy for Zuckerberg's character.
We run the risk of people saying, wait a second, am I supposed to, feel empathy for a guy who is 21, he's got a few $1 million in his pocket? Am I supposed to feel empathy because the big guys weren't taking him seriously? I can definitely feel empathy for a guy who got, really wronged by a girl.
Although the real Zuckerberg doesn't like The Social Network, and the character is certainly not universally likable, the movie shapes the perception of another tech mogul. On social media, Zuckerberg's character is often represented as cool and aspirational. And the person who you're supposed to feel bad for in The Social Network, Eduardo Saverin, is currently another tax-evading billionaire. Rather than focusing on the tens of millions of Americans in poverty, Hollywood focuses on the 1% of the 1%. But if wealth is supposed to be a virtue in Hollywood, why are they still making satires that ridicule the rich?
So Miles drives his baby blue Porsche to the scene of the crime.
Every actor in this scene could literally buy hundreds of baby blue Porsches. And Daniel Craig himself owns millions of dollars worth of sports cars. These movies are just rich people telling working people that rich people are dumb. These sports car hoarders, tech investors, and monopolizing companies do not care about inequality. The only way major studios have prominently addressed modern wealth hoarding is through comedy. It is not meant to inspire change. It is a new form of Engels' idea of false consciousness, believing that the system is working in your favor when in actuality it's benefiting the bourgeoisie instead. Hollywood wants you to say, eat the rich, and forget who the rich actually are. Glass Onion and so many movies before and after it do not care about you. These major studio movies are all made by millionaires who help fund an attempted monopoly. When billionaire William Randolph Hearst successfully silenced Citizen Kane 85 years ago, it showed how much power the bourgeoisie has over our movie narratives. Hearst wasn't even part of Hollywood. He just controlled the means of production of the most widely read newspapers. Hearst's campaign was a warning sign to artists against insulting the wealthy. In many ways, he destroyed Orson Welles' early career. And now, like The Social Network, movies that discuss billionaires play it safe. When they don't, like the Trump biopic The Apprentice that was released in 2024, Trump's team sent cease and desist letters and attempted to block its US release. The movie ended up as a major flop despite its initial critical success. As merger deals advance and Hollywood executives grow richer, it is necessary to acknowledge who chooses the stories to tell. The bourgeoisie has an amplified voice in Hollywood. The modern non-rags-to-riches poverty movies that come to mind are all made by independent studios. We should not be watching class commentary made by millionaires. Hollywood does not want your revolution.
It's a media-opoly, a media-opoly. The whole media is controlled by a few corporations thanks to